Welcome, everyone, to Just Johnny and Sophie. We're so glad you could join us today.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in.
So today's exploration of the source notes is, it's a bit of a departure from our usual topics, but honestly, it might be one of the most revealing things we've looked at in a while.
Oh, absolutely. It's a really unique set of notes.
Right. We're looking at this fascinating stack of source material that basically serves as like a character study. And it's centered entirely around these four best friends. So we've got Marcus, Lily, Dan, and Maya.
The whole ecosystem of a friend group,
Exactly. And the premise we found in today's sources is just incredibly relatable. It's a series of everyday would you rather dilemmas.
which everyone lives.
Right. But our mission today is to use these extreme, totally hypothetical scenarios to really unpack the psychology, the quirks, and the wildly different problem-solving styles of these four friends.
And what is fascinating here is that while these might sound like just silly internet questions on the surface, they actually act as a really brilliant psychological stress test
Yeah, a stress test is the perfect way to describe it.
because they strip away the polite fiction of everyday life. They reveal these deep, fundamental truths about how different personalities manage chaos, how they try to maintain control, and how they navigate everyday social friction.
It's all about how they handle the friction.
Exactly. And by the time we are done unpacking these notes, you're going to see exactly who the optimists, the realists, the control freaks, and the absolute chaos agents are in this group.
Oh, there is definitely a chaos agent.
For sure. And as an added bonus, we are also going to extract three highly useful English expressions from the source notes. These are phrases that naturally emerge when people are basically backed into a corner and forced to defend their strong opinions.
Okay, let's unpack this with the very first scenario from the notes. I think we can call this the food dilemma.
Let's do it.
So the question posed to the group is, would you rather eat the exact same meal every day for a year or never eat your favorite food again?
Such a tough one.
I know. Now, this immediately splits the friend group right down the middle, starting with Dan.
Yeah, and Dan's choice perfectly highlights his core operating system, really. He chose eating the same meal every day for a year.
Which sounds awful to me.
Right, but his reasoning, quoted directly from the notes, is just this masterpiece of minimalism. He simply said, less decisions.
Less decisions, that is so Dan.
If we look at the psychology behind that, Dan is essentially optimizing for something called cognitive load.
Mm-hmm.
Every day, the human brain makes thousands of choices, from what to wear to what to eat, and each choice drains a tiny bit of your mental battery.
Right, decision fatigue.
Exactly. Dan is ruthlessly efficient. He is entirely eliminating that daily drain. For him, the emotional joy of food is completely secondary to the mechanical convenience of preserving his mental energy for other things.
I mean, I see the logic in that, but doesn't optimizing for efficiency ultimately strip the joy out of life? Maya certainly seems to think so.
Oh, Maya had a lot to say about this.
She represents maximum emotion in this group. She claims she would, quote, lose my mind eating the same thing every day, so she opted to never eat her favorite food again.
Variety is everything for her.
Right. And if you recall the callback in the notes to Maya's past restaurant stories, this makes total sense. Dining for Maya isn't just sustenance. It's a narrative experience.
The whole event.
Exactly. The idea of reducing a year of her life to a single repetitive meal is a literal nightmare because it starves her of novelty, which her brain just absolutely craves.
Which brings us to Lily and Marcus. And they offered two entirely different ways of handling that exact same problem.
Oh, Lily's answer is fascinating.
It really is. Lily, who the notes describe as this hyper-organized planner with a list for absolutely everything, she also chooses to give up her favorite food. But she didn't do it out of a need for emotional novelty like Maya did.
No, she did the math.
She literally calculated the odds. She reasoned that there are enough other high-tier foods existing in the culinary world to mathematically compensate for the loss of her number one favorite.
She ran a risk analysis in her head.
Basically, yeah. She realized the data supported giving up the favorite food.
Listen, if you are the type of person listening to this who currently has a spreadsheet open for your weekly meal prep, you are absolutely a Lily.
No doubt about it.
And then there's Marcus. Marcus's answer genuinely baffled me.
Marcus is an interesting case.
He chooses the same meal every day, but his justification isn't about cognitive load like Dan, Marcus just says, I'd pick something with protein.
Like that solves the whole problem.
Right. He has this vague, completely unthought out plan. He thinks he can just hack the system by choosing something functional, completely ignoring the psychological reality of chewing on plain chicken and broccoli for 365 days straight.
It is the illusion of a plan. That seems to be Marcus's signature move.
Yeah.
And that same tendency to overestimate his own tolerance for discomfort bleeds right into the second scenario.
The commute dilemma.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The choice here is, would you rather be stuck in traffic for 2 hours every day or always have to take 3 different buses to get anywhere?
Ugh, this one is stressful just to read. Maya has an absolute visceral refusal of the buses.
She was not having it.
Her quote is, what if it rains and I'm at a bus stop? Absolutely not. It is such a vivid reaction. She immediately jumps to the worst case scenario regarding environmental discomfort.
The unpredictable elements of the outside world are completely unacceptable to her.
Yeah, she needs to know what's going to happen.
And that is because traffic, as miserable as it is, offers an illusion of a controlled environment. You are in a metal box, but it is your metal box.
Right, you have the AC, the radio.
Exactly. You control the temperature, the radio, and you are protected from the rain. Maya's reaction is a textbook example of humans choosing a known, guaranteed pain, like sitting in gridlock, over the unpredictable, chaotic variables of public transit.
But who actually becomes a master strategist in gridlock?
Yeah.
Because Marcus chooses the 2 hours of traffic, claiming, I'd use the time to think about plans.
Think about plans. That is hilarious.
The notes specifically reference his previously failed gym plan here. He's always the guy who has a grand scheme that never actually materializes.
Always dreaming.
The idea that 2 hours of soul-crushing gridlock is going to suddenly turn him into a productive genius is pure delusion. He is an eternal optimist who simply refuses to learn from his own history.
And then you contrast Marcus's theoretical plans with Lily's actual plans. Lily chooses the 3 buses.
Of course she does.
For a highly organized person, 3 buses aren't chaos. They are simply a schedule waiting to be mastered. The notes say she already has the route planned in her head.
She probably knows the transfer times already.
Oh, absolutely. While Marcus is dreaming in a traffic jam, Lily is executing a perfectly timed transit operation. And Dan, true to his efficiency model, he also chooses the buses, but his reasoning is different.
He hates sitting still.
Right, he says traffic is wasted time. He prefers continuous forward momentum over static waiting, even if the momentum requires transferring between vehicles.
So if you are currently white-knuckling a steering wheel on your way to work, you have to ask yourself, are you sitting there dreaming up plans that won't happen, or are you aggressively refreshing a transit app? It is fascinating how these daily grinds expose our internal wiring.
And that same internal wiring dictates how we handle modern dependencies, which takes us right into the technology dilemma.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
The group was asked, would you rather have your phone die at 1% every time you leave the house, or always have your phone but have absolutely no internet access?
This scenario is basically designed to strip away our modern crutches. And unsurprisingly, Lily is entirely unfazed.
She doesn't even blink.
She chooses having no internet. The notes point out she already has offline maps downloaded. She has offline lists prepared. She probably has survival guides cached.
She's ready for anything.
She is fundamentally disaster-proof. Her organization has evolved from a personality quirk into a genuine survival trait.
She is anticipating system failure, which is a very pragmatic way to live. Marcus, on the other hand, chooses his phone dying at 1% because he claims he would simply memorize everything before I leave.
That is astounding overconfidence. The notes bluntly state he would not.
He absolutely would not.
It's just another example of his chaotic optimism. He trusts his future self to suddenly possess a photographic memory, rather than dealing with the reality of navigating the world without a digital tether.
Meanwhile, Maya was immediately and vocally distressed by both options.
She hated this one.
For someone driven by connection and storytelling, being cut off from communication is terrifying. She eventually settles on the phone dying at 1%, presumably because a dead phone is at least a definitive tragedy she can complain about later.
Well, right, whereas a phone with no internet is just a frustrating tease.
Exactly. And then we look at Dan, who displays utter indifference. He chooses no internet with the justification, I barely use it anyway.
And the rest of the group just stared at him when he said that.
It's a quiet, unshakable stoicism. If we look at the source callbacks, they mentioned a previous incident with a wrong text that caused some drama. Having a phone die at 1% definitely would have prevented that disaster.
That is very true.
But Dan doesn't worry about mitigating social disasters. He just unplugs from the noise entirely.
And that urge to unplug from the noise bleeds right into how this group handles awkwardness in real life, like when the check arrives at dinner. Let's look at the money dilemma.
Oh, this is the big one.
Would you rather always split the bill perfectly to the cent, or always be the one who pays for everything?
This dilemma is a brilliant diagnostic tool for conflict avoidance and how people balance personal harmony versus objective fairness. Maya and Marcus both make a choice that seems shocking at first glance,
They both opt to pay for absolutely everything.
which sounds completely unsustainable. That is a massive financial burden to carry for a friend group.
It's so expensive.
It is expensive, but we have to look at the psychological cost they are avoiding. Marcus says, "It's easier. I hate the awkward moment." He is willing to take a massive financial hit just to avoid the interpersonal friction of figuring out who had the extra appetizer.
Yeah, Maya totally agrees with that.
Her reasoning is, I don't want the math, I just want to enjoy dinner.
Mm.
In psychological terms, if we look at the big five personality traits, this points to high agreeableness coupled with a strong aversion to conflict.
I just want peace.
For them, the emotional atmosphere of the dinner is the priority. The math, the tension, the staring at receipts, that ruins the experience. They're literally buying social peace.
They are subsidizing the good vibes. But
Yeah.
Dan approaches this from a completely different angle. Dan loves the fairness of splitting the bill perfectly.
Because it's logical.
Exactly. For him, equity is the ultimate comfort. It doesn't matter if it takes 10 minutes to calculate. What matters is that the system is just. He doesn't feel the social awkwardness because he views the transaction as purely logical.
And Lily isn't stressed by splitting the bill perfectly to the cent either.
Because she already has an app for it, she has successfully outsourced the social friction to technology.
Lily doesn't fear the math because she doesn't do the math. An algorithm does it for her. Think about your last group dinner. Which situation do you actually dread more? Are you the person quietly absorbing a massive bill just to keep people smiling? Or are you the person pulling out a calculator while everyone stares at you?
It says a lot about your relationship with confrontation.
It really does.
I feel stressed just imagining either scenario. But moving from the dinner table to the living room, the notes dive into family dynamics and what they call the parent dilemma.
This one is quite revealing.
Would you rather have to explain every meme to your parents or have your parents send you memes every day that you have to react to?
This is where we see the emotional core of the group. Maya chose reacting to her parents' memes. The notes quote her saying, "My mom sends me memes at 7 a.m. I love her. I would not change this."
That is genuinely sweet.
It is. For Maya, who thrives on connection, the fact that her mom is trying to reach out, even if the memes are terrible or sent at the crack of dawn, is a beautiful thing. It is a relationship touch point that she values over her own convenience.
But you contrast that warmth with Lily's approach, and it's a totally different dynamic. Lily chose explaining memes to her parents.
To take control of the situation.
Yes, because she would rigorously prepare simple meme explanations in advance. She treats family communication like a curriculum she needs to teach.
She wants control over the flow of information.
She would rather be the authority figure dispensing knowledge than the passive recipient of 7 a.m. internet humor. And Dan, beautifully consistent Dan, chooses reacting to the memes purely because it requires less effort.
The path of least resistance.
He doesn't want to teach a masterclass on internet culture. He just wants to send a thumbs up emoji and move on with his day.
Dan optimizes for the lowest possible energy expenditure in almost every scenario. Which brings us to the bonus dilemma. The notes call this the hardest one, and it is the ultimate divider of any friend group.
Oh, absolutely.
The question, would you rather always arrive 30 minutes early to everything or always arrive 20 minutes late?
We have a clear divide here between the late crew and the early planners. Let's start with the late crew. Marcus and Meyer both chose being 20 minutes late, but for completely different psychological reasons.
Very different.
Marcus says, "I'd rather be late than wait." It is a shockingly honest admission. He is explicitly stating that his time is too valuable to spend standing around, so he is perfectly comfortable transferring that cost onto his friends.
He prioritizes his own continuous activity over social courtesy. Maya, on the other hand, says, "I always think I have more time than I do."
Which is so common.
This isn't necessarily selfishness. This is a classic presentation of what psychologists call time blindness. It's an executive function issue where the brain fails to accurately estimate how long a sequence of tasks like showering, getting dressed, and commuting will actually take.
The math just doesn't work out.
Right. She genuinely believes she can do an hour's worth of preparation in 12 minutes. It's a failure of chronological perception.
That is a fascinating distinction. It is not always about disrespecting someone else's time. Sometimes it is literally a glitch in how you perceive reality. And then you have the early planners.
The complete opposite end of the spectrum.
Lily chooses to be 30 minutes early, and the notes say she already does this in real life. But she doesn't suffer when she's early because she brings things to do while waiting. She turns dead time into productive time. She is never truly just waiting. She's working on a secondary to-do list.
And Dan chooses being early simply because waiting is fine. He possesses an almost Zen-like inner peace.
He really does.
He doesn't need to be entertained, he doesn't need to be productive, and he doesn't feel anxious. He's perfectly content to just exist in a space for 30 minutes. It is a level of emotional regulation that the rest of the group simply does not possess.
It is amazing how much a hypothetical question about a dinner reservation or a commute reveals about a person's core identity.
It really is. And as we mentioned at the start, these specific kinds of high-stress, opinion-driven conversations naturally provoke some very specific language.
Yes, the expressions.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, when people are forced to defend their operating systems, they rely on certain linguistic tools. The source material pulls out 3 highly useful English expressions that these friends repeatedly use to navigate these choices.
I love looking at the language mechanics of this. What is the first one?
The first one is the absolute core phrase of this entire setup, I'd rather. This is the fundamental expression of preference in English.
Used all over these notes.
Exactly. When you are faced with 2 suboptimal options, you use this to navigate toward the lesser evil. You say, I'd rather walk than take the bus. Or like Marcus said, I'd rather be late than wait.
It is the pivot point of a strong opinion.
Right. It allows you to firmly establish your position without necessarily attacking the alternative.
But when a simple preference isn't enough, when you need to establish a brick wall, you use the second expression. There's no way I'd...
That is the perfect way to describe it. This phrase is for strong, immovable refusals. It communicates that something is completely impossible for you. It's not just a preference, it's a hard boundary.
Like Maya refusing the bus.
Think of Maya refusing the unpredictable variables of the bus stop. She essentially communicated, there's no way I'd stand in the rain waiting for transit. Or, looking at the money dilemma, someone trying to protect their wallet might say, there's no way I'd pay for everyone.
It shuts the door on the possibility completely.
And it signals to the listener that the topic is not up for debate.
And finally, the third expression, which is usually reserved for when you are forced into the option you absolutely hate. That drives me crazy.
A very necessary phrase.
This perfectly expresses intense, bubbling frustration.
It acts as a verbal exhaust pipe for stress. If you're stuck in those 2 hours of gridlock we talked about, you say, traffic drives me crazy.
Or splitting the bill.
Exactly. If you are the person watching someone calculate the dinner bill down to the last penny while the waiter hovers, you might lean over to your friend and whisper, splitting the bill drives me crazy. It acknowledges the psychological toll the situation is taking on you. It is a very natural, universally understood way to vent.
If you can master I'd rather, there's no way I'd... And that drives me crazy. You are fully equipped to survive any group chat debate or hypothetical dilemma your friends throw at you.
They are essential tools for establishing your boundaries and asserting your personality in a world full of chaotic variables.
Looking back at our 4 friends, their choices in these seemingly silly games perfectly encapsulated exactly who they are. We have Lily, who approaches every single disaster from dead phones to bad commutes with endless preparation and a downloaded map.
The ultimate planner.
We have Dan, operating with ruthless efficiency and absolutely minimal effort, seeking a perfectly fair world that requires fewer decisions.
The minimalist.
We have Maya, bringing all of her emotional flair, protecting her joy, avoiding the math, and cherishing those 7 a.m. memes because connection matters most to her.
The heart of the group.
And of course, Marcus, with his chaotic optimism, convinced he can memorize the internet and invent brilliant life plans while stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic.
It is a perfectly balanced ecosystem of personalities. It naturally prompts the question of where each of us fits into an ecosystem like that.
Which brings us to our listener challenge for this session. We have a 2-part challenge for you this week. First, we want you to try using the phrase, I'd rather in a real-life situation.
Put it into practice.
The next time you are faced with a choice at work or with friends, confidently state your preference. I'd rather do this than that. Own your decision. And second, we want you to head to the comments or find us at Just Johnny and Sophie on Instagram and answer that final bonus question with absolute honesty.
Well, this will be good.
When it really comes down to it, are you the chronically early type who turns waiting into a productive task, or the chronically late type battling time blindness? We want to know.
And before we wrap up, I want to give you a quick teaser for our next session of Just Johnny and Sophie. Looking ahead in the source notes, we will be discussing the absolute worst job interviews experienced by two people in this very friend group.
Oh, no.
One of them blanked entirely on the most basic question imaginable, and the other said something so entirely unexplainable that the notes literally say it gets worse before it gets better.
That sounds incredible.
You will not want to miss the breakdown of that social disaster.
I am already cringing just thinking about what Marcus might have said in a professional setting.
It is a strong possibility that it was him. But to close out today, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over based on what we've unpacked.
Leave us with something good.
Looking at how everyone answered these dilemmas, what does it say about human nature? That we so often prefer a guaranteed, predictable hardship, like sitting in soul-crushing traffic for 2 hours, or paying an entire massive dinner bill out of pocket over the mere possibility of unpredictable chaos, or a slight moment of social awkwardness. Why do we find such profound comfort in suffering, as long as it is on our own terms?
That is a brilliant question to sit with. Thank you so much for joining us for this exploration on Just Johnny and Sophie. We will catch you next time.